except for you, Dave. You give me responses all the time. But thank you for joining us, and let me thank Mayor Bala for welcoming us to the great city of Hoboken, the members of the council who are here as well, our freeholder Romano, who's joined us as well. I also appreciate that Greg Delaquila, who is the president of the Hoboken Business Alliance Special Improvement District, which was formed last year to improve area and stimulate businesses, is with us, so we appreciate him being with us as well. And I want to say I appreciate Mayor Bala for his steady leadership during what has been a very difficult year for families and businesses here in Hoboken and certainly throughout New Jersey and the nation. The passage of the American Rescue Plan marks a turning point in this pandemic, and I'm so glad that Dave Carney, owner of the iconic Madison here in Hoboken, has agreed to host us today. You'll also be hearing from other local restaurant and bar owners who have been challenged to stay open during the pandemic. Look, when the coronavirus first began to spread last March, I don't think any of us imagined the sheer magnitude of the crisis to come. The loss of more than 500,000 Americans, including nearly 24,000 of our fellow New Jerseyans. The toll it would take on our economy, the way it would change our everyday lives. Fortunately, the light at the end of this long, dark tunnel is getting bigger and brighter. The passage of the American Rescue Plan has put us on a path to defeat the pandemic and finally begin turning our economy around. Billions of dollars are ramping up vaccinations nationwide so we can achieve President Biden's goal of making every adult in America eligible for a vaccine by May. Already, New Jerseyans are starting to receive their $1,400 direct payments, and hundreds of thousands of low and middle income workers and parents will benefit from this historic new tax relief. And after fighting for nearly a year and a half to help state and local governments reeling from soaring coronavirus response costs and plummeting tax revenues, I'm especially proud of the author of the provision that will bring $10 billion in direct federal aid flowing to every town, city, and county in New Jersey. That includes $424 million flowing into Hudson County freeholder and $27 million for the great city of Hoboken alone. There's so much good to talk about in this law, but what brings us together today is the inclusion of a long overdue targeted aid for the industry hardest hit by this pandemic, our restaurants, bars, and eateries. These businesses are integral to New Jersey's communities and economy, and I would argue that no other industry better captures the unique blending of cultures that define our state. On any given day, you can eat an all-American meal at one of our iconic diners. You can sample some of the best Italian food around, as I tell my colleagues in the Senate. You can indulge your authentic tastes with an authentic Indian meal. And I appreciate that I never have to travel too far to enjoy a Cuban staple like ropa vieja. Behind every dish served, however, are the people who cook it, who plate it, who serve it, or as often the case here at the Madison, mix it and pour it. The food industry certainly represents about 8% of all employment in New Jersey. That's nearly 350,000 jobs. And in 2018 alone, consumers spent some $18 billion in New Jersey restaurants. Our restaurants are part of who we are, but this pandemic has left many of them on life support. Dining or drinking indoors with strangers became one of the highest risk activities for transmitting COVID-19. And though our restaurants made admirable efforts to expand takeout and delivery options and create more outdoor seating, too many had to close their doors or lay off workers just to survive. During the peak of closures last year, up to 8 million waiters, bartenders, dishwashers, and other restaurant staff across America lost their jobs or were furloughed. By the end of 2020, the sector actively employed nearly 2.5 million fewer workers than it did before the pandemic. That's why I co-sponsored the Restaurants Act, a bill to create targeted relief for this vital sector. However, it wasn't until we won a Democratic majority in the Senate and President Biden came into office that we had a real opportunity to pass it as part of the American Rescue Plan. This historic legislation includes a $28.6 billion restaurant revitalization fund that will give restaurants and bars of every size access to grants worth up to $10 million or $5 million per physical location. And we tailored this initiative to help the small businesses most in need. For example, big corporations are not permitted to receive awards. And we set $5 billion aside for just small and minority-owned businesses that in 2019 had gross receipts of $500,000 or less. So I think to our restaurant industry, help is truly on the way. I expect the Small Business Administration to get this program up and running in the next couple of weeks. We just approved the Small Business Administrator, confirmed her nomination, so she will be in position to make this program run. We must keep our restaurants alive and help them survive this crisis, because as more and more Americans get their vaccines, this industry will be essential to getting people back to work and growing our economy. I know we all can't wait for the day when it's safe to dine out at our favorite restaurants once again, to take our spouses out for a date, to take a break from cooking at home, from celebrating a special occasion with family, or joining colleagues for drinks at happy hour. With that, let me turn the program over to Mayor Bala, who has made some tough, necessary choices in order to protect the health and safety of this community, but who also, when we gave him CARES Act funding and whatnot, reached out to the community, to the business community, and used part of his CARES Act funding to help them get through some very difficult times. Mayor Bala.
Thank you, Senator, for joining us today, and it's a real honor to have you here in Hoboken to make this historic announcement. As the Senator mentioned, Hoboken was indeed the first city in the nation to shut down bars and restaurants in the very beginning stages of the virus that we at that time knew little about. We made that decision at the time with the sole focus of saving lives, which I'm currently confident that we did. While it ended up being the right call to help curb the deadly virus as best as we knew, the decision also had an enormous impact on our small businesses, and in particular, our bars, our restaurants, and food establishments. Just 2 days after that day where we began the beginning stages of lockdown in Hoboken, in the weeks and months after, I wrote to, spoke to, and directly worked with Senator Menendez and Senator Booker a number of times to describe the real dire situation that was facing our small businesses. And ever since those days during the pandemic, Senators Menendez, Booker, and Congressman Albios have fought tooth and nail for our small businesses. They fought for our restaurants, fought for our small business relief that began last year with the CARES Act and this year with the American Rescue Plan, which includes portions of this truly historic bill that he and his staff helped put together. The funds of this allocation of money will become a critical part of our recovery efforts as we help rebuild the restaurant industry and continue on the road to recovery. We've done as much as we possibly can as a city over the past several months, whether it was quickly moving to enact ordinances to allow parklets and streeteries, of which we are at one right now, providing free testing for Hoboken business employees, initiating summer streets to expand outdoor dining into the street, and setting up our own local Hoboken Relief Fund that raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for our businesses, and much, much more. But at the same time, I've spoken to many business owners like Grace, like Anthony, and like Dave, who are all here with us today, and they've all told me directly that without more help, they cannot make it. In the coming weeks, when these funds are unlocked, that critical financial help will finally be here. and Senator Menendez is an instrumental part of making that happen. While this won't make up for 100% of the lost revenue, it will certainly lend a tremendous helping hand. Many of our business owners have been here for years, for decades, sometimes for generations. They've all been here for us through the years, and it's time now for us as local officials to be here for them. And that's exactly what, through the leadership of Senator Menendez and our federal delegation, they're doing here as part of the America Rescue Plan. I want to commend our congressional delegation for digging in against many of their colleagues in the House and Senate and by the former president, who actually fought against funding for states and cities when the federal stimulus package was being debated. Only two senators and our two senators and congressmen, all three of whom were also local mayors, knew that doing nothing simply wasn't an option. Thanks to their insistence on money for states and cities, Hoboken has been allocated a separate allotment of $27 million, and we as a city are firmly committed to a new round of relief funding for our small businesses, in addition to rent relief, assistance for nonprofits, and more, the details of which will be coming in the coming weeks. Once again, Senator Menendez, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for our small businesses, and look forward to working with you in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, very much. And now Dave Carney, the owner of the Madison, the place that we are privileged to be at today. Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you, Senator. I just want to say a little short something that I don't understand if anyone really understands how important the government funding is for restaurants. If we didn't get PPP, if we didn't get grants, Madison Bar and Grill would not be in business today, a year after the pandemic. And I can remember, speaking of Mayor Bala, 2 days, March 13th of last year, about closing down, and it was the right decision to make. But on top of that, the real right decision was made by the senators and Congress people to give us the help. Without them, we would not be open today. Thank you so much. That being said, I don't have much more to say. Thank you. That's.
How difficult was it during the last year, and how did you manage to stay open when a lot of restaurants did shut down and may never open again?
Quite frankly, just the PPP. The PPP is what kept us going. You know, after 3 months or 4 months into the pandemic, my wife and I said, we don't know what to do. And then the PPP came out and we applied for it, got it, and hired everybody back. I think we hired every single employee from pre-pandemic.
We have other speakers and then those questions, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Dave Carney, Madison Bar and Grill.
Spell your last name.
CARNEY. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. A perfect example how PPP was instrumental in getting us through the pandemic, and how this legislation, which restores money to that and expands the program, is critically important. Next is Anthony Pino, who's the owner of Bin 14, and Anthony Davids, a tremendous place. I used to live in Hoboken, it was around the corner from me, and I love going there for some of the food. So, Anthony?
Yep. Morning, everyone. Senator, thank you so much, Mayor Bala. Thank you so much for just pushing through all your efforts. As Dave had said, without the PPP, virtually every restaurant would be closed. For those 3 months, everyone just had to go home and not knowing what was next. Through all those efforts, we were able to, like Dave said, hire back all of our staff at full time, pay them what they're all really working for, to get us to this next level. And with the future funding that's coming along, restaurants really always have been week to week, month to month. Now we can say 6 months in advance. It allows us to regroup and assert all of our efforts to better business, that make us better business people, to put the money really where it needs to go, to give us the longevity to continue our business and support our staff. But we want to say thank you to Hoboken, State of New Jersey. Thank you for all your efforts, and we appreciate us moving forward with all of you and keeping us going and our families safe. Thanks so much. We appreciate all your efforts. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, if you want to talk about one of the great Italian restaurants, you have to go to Leo's Grandivore, and Grace Shanglapour is the co-owner. So, Grace, you want to?
Thank you, Senator. COVID and the shutdown has impacted the restaurant industry like nothing we have seen before. As a family-run restaurant in Hoboken for the past 81 years, Leo's has been through a couple of world events. My brother Nick and I knew we would come out of this on the other side. We changed our hours, we changed our schedules, we solely became a to-go and delivery business. We fed the frontliners. We cried with our customers when they came in to pick up food and they said they missed us. But the hardest part was seeing our employees who came to work every day and see the uncertainty in their eyes. Although no one was laid off, this was heartbreaking. It was especially difficult because our core staff has been with us for an average of 28 years. And one of them is here with me today, Linda. She's been with us for 38 years. So these people are not employees, they're family. Although all of us would rather work than receive assistance, these funds will circulate back into the business in every aspect so that all our employees will benefit in the end, whether it's the head chef or busser. In addition, these funds will help Hoboken restaurants revitalize our town, which we love so much. Thank you, Mayor Bala, for everything you have done for us. And thank you, Senator Menendez, for allocating this money to our industry. And let's get back to work. Thank you.
38 years, Linda? What, did they take you out of the crib to go serve at the... All right. And finally, my dear friend, who spent a lot of time on Zooms with me, making the case for the industry, Jeannie Cretella, who's the president of Landmark Hospitality and a board member of the National Restaurant and Hospitality Association. And if you know Landmark Hospitality, it has a variety of locations where memories are made for many people to enjoy for a long time. Jean?
Thank you. After hearing our fellow restaurateurs talk, makes me proud. Just reinforces why I'm so proud to be part of this industry. So, yes, my name is Jeannie Cretella, and I'm a very proud restaurant owner in the state of New Jersey. Prior to COVID-19, the restaurant industry was the second largest private sector employer, only second to the state. Today, 40% of our operators have either shuttered their doors completely or temporarily. And 97% of those operators have had to face laying off team members either permanently or on unemployment. These numbers are staggering. And prior to COVID-19, there were over 360,000 restaurant employees just in this state. Today, there are still over 220,000 restaurant employees who are not yet back to work. Nationwide, restaurants have jobs lower than 2 million jobs lower than they had pre-COVID. Restaurants all share a collective goal. As you can hear from fellow restaurateurs, we're committed to strengthening our communities, to giving opportunities to first-time employees, for those who are re-entering the workplace. And we offer career paths with endless opportunities. Typically, it's always been your local restaurant that you can count on in times of need. Senator Menendez recognizes this, and it's why he dedicated endless time on ensuring that the Restaurant Revitalization Fund came to fruition. It's this fund that will now allow restaurants across the state and the nation to begin to rebuild. As we look towards spring, just in a couple of days, this act will be the catalyst to reviving restaurants and saving jobs. Our shore businesses will now have the means to reopen for a 2021 season, while family-owned businesses, like the ones in this town, could access assistance that's needed to survive. You know, we're here today a year after the close down. We were forced to close due to the effects of a virus that crippled our state and our nation. The impact that COVID-19 has had on the hospitality industry was devastating and life-changing. There was nothing that prepared us for the challenges that we needed to face. What was apparent from the very beginning was how fortunate we are in New Jersey to have someone like Senator Menendez, who recognized that our industry needed and deserved special attention. His determination to pass the Restaurant Revitalization Fund will now allow restaurants, large and small, to have equal access to federal relief. If you're a suffering restaurant, and after a year, I'm sure there's not a restaurant out there that has not been suffering. We now have the ability to plan ahead, rebuild our teams, and strengthen our communities. On behalf of all restaurant owners, our team members, our suppliers, everyone who does business with us, we thank you so much for believing in this industry and putting in what is just instrumental in helping us rebuild our futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie, very much. I also want to recognize two dear friends. I saw them here earlier. Let's know they're still here. Haney Ahmed and Mark Villamar. They were. Hey, Haney, how are you? Appreciate you guys being here as well. And with that, I am happy to answer a couple of questions. First on topic, yeah.
You mentioned a couple of weeks for the SBA to get up and running.
Right.
Can you translate that, please, into what your hope is that checks actually be flowing to these restaurants as far as time is concerned?
Well, since the foundational aspect of how to do this through the PPP program was already established, and we're building on that, it is my hope that the regulatory process here won't take that much longer. I'm always loath to give specific time frames, because when it doesn't happen, then it slips a week and away we go. But I do think when we spoke to the administrator, the new small business administrator about this, that the focus is, of all the things that she will have to do, is getting this program up and running for small businesses broadly, the category that we have, and particularly the restaurant industry. Because the other businesses have had some ability to get access to money, and some of the restaurants did get, PPP, but the specifically targeted monies for this industry under this bill will uniquely help them in a more significant way. So I think, I'm hoping that we're almost at the end of March. I'd like to see checks roll out by the end of April.
End of April.
That's my hope. It's my hope, and that's what we're shooting for. Any other questions?
What do you think about the Republican Attorney General who are saying that they should be able to lower taxes using the money from this bill in their state? They're going, I guess, to support this
Well, yeah. So, look, we all like to lower taxes. But first of all, Republicans didn't cast one vote in the House of Representatives or in the United States Senate for this legislation. Not one. Not for one element of it. This is about recovery. This is about being able to get our businesses back up, our families secure, ending the pandemic. That's what this money's for, not for lowering taxes, especially when you weren't part of the solution at the end of the day. So they can go to court all they want, but that is not the focus of why I cast my vote. I cast my vote to get our schools open, to get our businesses up and running and at full strength, to get our families safer, to get more vaccinations so we can end the pandemic. That's what I cast my vote for. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's pretty outrageous on their part, especially when none of their members cast a vote, not one, House or Senate, for this legislation.
En español, senador, ¿nos puede decir
Sí.
los fondos de revitalización? ¿Cuánto dinero estamos hablando? 28.600 millones de dólares. ¿Y para qué se van a emplear y qué diferencia puede hacer?
Estamos aquí hoy en Hoboken con el alcalde y otros líderes de la comunidad para anunciar como parte el plan de rescate del presidente Biden más de 28.6 mil millones de dólares, sobre todo para los restaurantes y barras y la industria que nos sirve la comida, ¿no? Y esto es una industria que se ha encontrado en tanta dificultad porque fue uno de los más impactados por la pandemia y también porque restaurar su habilidad. Estos son negocios que siempre están operando al margen, no tienen una ganancia grande. Entonces, cuando viene un impacto tan grande como la pandemia, pues entonces existe la posibilidad de que no van a realizar la oportunidad de vivir y continuar en su negocio. Y miles de personas trabajan en esta industria, los que cocinan en la cocina, los que sirven la comida, los que lavan los platos, los que te atienden cuando entras al restaurante, todas esas personas. Y para nosotros como una comunidad latina, una gran parte de esos miles de personas que actualmente participan en esta industria son latinos. Así que para ellos esto es un alivio importante saber que mi trabajo va a continuar, que el negocio va a mantenerse abierto y que actualmente hay un mejor día hacia adelante.
Llega en un momento oportuno, ahora que Nueva Jersey va a estar al 50% de capacidad, las vacunas aparentemente están haciendo su efecto. Cuéntanos.
Bueno, primero de todo, la decisión del gobernador Murphy de extender al 50% de la capacidad de cada lugar es una decisión que aplaudo, basado en la ciencia, que estamos en un momento donde podemos hacer eso. Y número dos, obviamente, el esfuerzo del presidente Biden de tener un plan que lo está ejecutando para que las vacunas puedan existir para todo el mundo en empezar de mayo es un acontecimiento enorme, porque la única forma que vamos a terminar con la pandemia, la única forma que vamos a tener una mejor economía es cuando estamos todos teniendo la vacuna. Así que yo urjo a la comunidad, yo he tomado la vacuna, es seguro, yo urjo a la comunidad, cuando viene el momento que tú puedes tomar la vacuna, toma la vacuna. Esa es la forma en la cual vamos a vivir, esa es una forma en la cual vamos a prosperar. Any other questions?
Senator, there are a lot of people who are still apprehensive about going to restaurants, patronizing businesses. Do you have a message for the people who are still on the fence with going out, being normal again?
Well, look, I mean, I think decisions are still being made that are health conscious. I'm sure there's still the appropriate distancing. I know the governor raised the percentage that is now able, as of today, to 50%. I'm sure he made that decision, as he has made most of his decisions based on the science. And as more and more people get vaccinated, then obviously the risk is dramatically lowered. You know, I have been vaccinated, and I go out to eat. And the places I go to, I see that they observe the safeguards that are necessary in terms of the percentages, the distancing, and other things. So I would say that, you know, especially if you've been vaccinated, there's no reason not to. But of course, everybody will make their own personal decisions.
Can we ask one of the restaurant owners who has some question about the 50%?
Sure. Anybody want to join in on the 50%?
Sorry? Go ahead.
50% as of today.
What does it mean for us? It is a step forward in the right arena which we're all looking for. Just more occupancy, more capacity, more volume, just equals more dollars. As you know, it's with a 6-foot capacity, and as everything increases, for us who own bars, opening the bar itself is really super important, because that's where, in the business sense, you can generate more dollars per person in a quicker aspect of time. Okay, so as soon as we still increase our capacity, opening the bars itself is really important, but we're going to take whatever we can get at this point. With spring around the corner, having the parklets and stuff like that, it all really makes a huge difference. And again, thank you for the parklets, Hoboken, like really a game changer for our industry. We hope we can turn it into a permanent, because I think now, not just now, but I think the Hoboken community and all communities really feel that this is a part of now everyday dining for us. We want to be outside. We want to be in comfort. We want to feel like we're in a little bit of Europe. And it's just a great thing. Thank you.
Same question?
No, on behalf of the Restaurant Association, this money, I've been informed by the Senator's staff, can also be used for restaurants that close, and they can now try to reopen. As a member of the board, are you familiar with restaurateurs who had to close, who are closed now, who do want to try to reopen?
So yeah, there definitely is a segment of the restaurant population that had to close. PPP was a wonderful funding source, but not everyone was able to take advantage of it, or was actually afraid originally to take advantage of it because of the short amount of time that you needed to use those funds. And it needed to be used at a time when we were still faced with major restrictions. So how could you bring back employees if you're still totally closed? It became very scary for a lot of restaurants to try to take PPP funds. This bill will allow all restaurants, some of which, a lot of the smaller restaurants that didn't have access to PPP funds, to now gain access to funds that can be used, and they can use those funds to pay their rent, to pay their employees, to pay any kind of expenses that they have. So for those restaurants that are closed or that had closed temporarily, we are really hopeful that many of them will in fact take advantage of this and yes, reopen permanently.
Do you have any feel as to how
What the
many there are
percentages,
out there that might?
I don't have the statistics on how many. I know just from talking with other restaurateurs that, many of them that have been holding tight or felt that they needed to close are in fact looking at moving forward. So I would hope that the percentage is higher than 20 or 30%, I would hope.
Any other questions?
Senator, in English and Spanish, some of the money from the American Rescue Plan, the municipalities can use this money as well to help these businesses. That's
Yes.
different. Can you
Yeah.
explain that in English and Spanish?
Yeah. So the monies that are going directly to the state, county, and local governments are broadly defined, and the city of Hoboken, in the last version of relief aid under the CARES Act, used some of its money for the purposes of helping business. They will be able to use some of this money beyond the direct grants that the businesses will be able to apply for under the provisions that we've been talking about today. If they feel that there is a need to augment that, they will have the ability to take some of their money to do that. Las municipalidades, el condado, el estado, en adición del propósito del dinero que han recibido para el bienestar de la ayuda de los ciudadanos, de la seguridad, de nuestros hospitales y otras cosas, también pueden coger 1% de sus fondos para ayudar negocios similares como los restaurantes. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much all for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.